Today on the Matt Walsh Show, Donald Trump clocked in to work a shift at McDonald's in Pennsylvania over the weekend. It was a funny stunt that, of course, sent the left into spasms of rage. Also, Barack Obama absurdly claims that he handed Donald Trump a quote-unquote playbook that would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives during COVID if only Trump had used it. Lizzo hits the campaign trail for Kamala with an interesting pitch. Make America more like Detroit, she says. In a video that went viral over the weekend, just may go down as the greatest illustration of government inefficiency ever put to film. We'll talk about all that and more today on the Matt Walsh Show. In just 6 days, my new movie, Am I Racist?, the decade's #1 documentary, streams exclusively on Daily Wire Plus October 28th. But you need a Daily Wire Plus membership to watch. Join now at dailywire.com/subscribe and use code DEI for 35% off your new membership. Don't miss out. Well, let's talk about meat. You know, that thing that the left is trying to guilt you out of eating? Your voice isn't just heard at the ballot box every 4 years. You cast a vote every single day with your dollars. That's why I use Good Ranchers. They're not messing around with trendy food fads or cheap imports. They're focused on what really matters, delivering top-notch meat from American farms straight to your door. In fact, Good Ranchers recently created a groundbreaking innovation, seed oil-free chicken nuggets. No other nuggets on the market guarantee a pure, seed oil-free recipe that prioritizes your family's health without sacrificing taste. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Matt, isn't all this meat just basically the same? Wrong. Good Ranchers meat isn't just free from antibiotics, seed oils, and added hormones. It's a cut above the rest. We're talking 100% American beef, pork, and chicken. And right now, Good Ranchers is running a presidential promo. Subscribe to any of their boxes, and you get a free add-on for 4 years. That's right. Until the next election, you can get extra chicken, beef, bacon, or salmon in every order. Plus, every cut is pre-trimmed and vacuum sealed. That means less prep work, more time enjoying your meal with your family, because let's face it, that's what really matters. Plus, with my exclusive code Walsh, you'll get an additional $25 off your first box and free express shipping. Remember, you're not just choosing dinner, you're choosing to support American farmers and enjoy the best meat this country has to offer. So don't miss out. Use code Walsh at goodranchers.com today to claim this presidential promo worth over $1,200 and bring 100% American meat to your family meals until 2028. That's goodranchers.com. Use promo code Walsh, goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. If Donald Trump wins the presidential election in November, which at this point seems probably more likely than not, then what happened yesterday at a McDonald's in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, will encapsulate why he won. Assuming there's a single honest history book in 20 years from now, this will be the moment that the authors used to illustrate the trajectory of the race in its final days. Now, on paper, it was basically just a, classic photo op, the kind of thing that's been done thousands of times before. Donald Trump showed up at the McDonald's, mingled with the employees, learned how to cook fries, served some customers in the drive-thru, talked to reporters, and left. Doesn't sound very remarkable. Certainly doesn't sound like the kind of thing that Trump's opponents should treat like a crisis or anything approaching a crisis. So it's notable that the Kamala Harris campaign, along with the press, are currently having a full-on meltdown over Trump's visit to McDonald's yesterday. And if you want to know why Donald Trump is probably going to win in November, you have to understand exactly why this is happening. You have to understand why they're so threatened by the fact that Trump served French fries for 15 minutes. Now, to give you some idea of what I'm talking about, here's the reaction from MSNBC, where they foamed at the mouth while simultaneously accusing Donald Trump of being crazy. Watch.
If you're on his campaign, and I know you are certainly not, I'm not making any implication of that, but what is the logic behind this, going to a McDonald's? I mean, we know the guy likes Big Macs and filet of fish, and he's used the word love to describe the way he feels about the food there before. But what's this about?
There's no logic to it. It's a stunt. He has not put forth an economic agenda. He, as you know, appears to be not well, and he's engaged in some really bizarre types of activities during this campaign. So this is just another one of those stunts that he will continue on through the campaign. And I think that we need to really focus on making sure that he is not elected, of course, because he is a threat to our democracy, but also the Harris-Walsh agenda is about the economy, reducing the cost of living, reducing the cost of prescription drugs, reducing the cost of housing, and making life better for everyone. And that's what we have to focus on and make sure we get every voter to the polls and make sure that the voters vote for the future, not taking the country backwards, as you see what Donald Trump continues to try to do. So I'm urging and encouraging everyone to get to the polls and vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to be their next president and vice president.
Now, MSNBC claims that they have no idea why Donald Trump went to McDonald's. Maybe he likes Big Macs, they suggest. But probably he's just losing his mind. Now, of course, they know exactly why Donald Trump was there. On the stump, Kamala Harris has repeatedly claimed that she worked at McDonald's in the 1980s. But the company says that it has no record of her employment, and Kamala's been unwilling to provide any evidence that she was employed by McDonald's. Additionally, the Washington Free Beacon found that neither of Harris's memoirs makes any mention of a job at McDonald's. The first time she publicly mentioned the job was decades after the fact at a political rally in 2019. And then there's this, quote, the Free Beacon also obtained a copy of Harris's October 1987 job application for a law clerk position in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. On that form, Harris, who was in law school at the time, listed several jobs, including a month-long clerical job at a stock brokerage, in a section that asked her to list every position she held in the last 10 years. McDonald's is absent. Now, on top of that, when she speaks about the job, Kamala acts a bit like she does when she talks about the Glock that she allegedly owns. Her speech is halting. Her descriptions are vague. She says that she handled the fries, and Kamala's handlers have changed their mind on why she had the job, too. At one point, they said that it was to pay for college. At another point, they said that she worked at McDonald's to get some extra spending money. It all seems fake because it probably is fake. Now, on one level, it's obviously very alarming that the Democrats have nominated a candidate who's so phony that she would lie about something like this. I mean, this is the first case of stolen McValor that we've ever seen in politics. It's gratuitous because it's totally unnecessary. And even worse, she didn't even lie convincingly about it. At the same time, there's no denying that this is maybe the easiest target for mockery that you can possibly imagine. I mean, if SNL were still funny, they'd be doing nonstop skits about this. But SNL isn't really funny anymore, at least not regularly so that job has fallen to Donald Trump. And so he showed up to the McDonald's kitchen in Bucks County yesterday, worked for about 15 minutes, and declared that he's now worked at McDonald's longer than Kamala Harris worked there. This is an image here that's going to find its way into a lot of retrospectives on the 2024 presidential race. Watch.
Make it fact.
Mr. President, you actually have worked at McDonald's now versus...
Now I have worked at McDonald's. I've now worked for 15 minutes more than Kamala.
Are you going to put this on your
I
resume?
never worked here.
Why would she lie about something like that?
Will
be put on your resume.
Worked at McDonald's.
Why would she lie about that?
Why? Because she's lying, Kamala. That's why.
So there's a lot to discuss in that short clip, but one thing to notice is that Trump isn't even really being hostile here. He's not coming across as unhinged and unpleasant like the MSNBC panel. In fact, at one point, Trump told reporters in the drive-thru lane that he wished Kamala Harris a happy birthday, which was nice of him. He offered to send her some French fries and even flowers to mark the occasion. So this is some lighthearted mockery that happens to be extremely damaging for Kamala Harris from a political perspective. But a big part of the reason why it's so damaging is that nobody in the corporate press or the Kamala Harris campaign is capable of enduring mockery at their own expense. Instead, by going into hysterics over it, they're revealing that the Trump campaign is right. They're highlighting the exact vulnerability that the Trump campaign wanted to highlight, which is that everything about Kamala Harris's image is artificial and inflexible. There's nothing genuine about her or her fake life story. And yesterday, in maybe the most effective way imaginable, Trump made that fact impossible to ignore. And that's why, one by one, every single mainstream outlet has published an article attacking Trump for the crime of cooking a batch of French fries. They went into a fully defensive posture, and they all use pretty much the same language. They all say that Trump is out of line for daring to suggest that maybe Kamala Harris didn't actually work at McDonald's. CNN, for example, reports, quote, Trump has grown fixated on Harris's employment at McDonald's. In interviews and on the campaign trail, he regularly accuses Harris, without evidence, of making up the factoid. The AP, meanwhile, reports, quote, "The visit came as Trump has tried to counter Democratic nominee Kamala Harris's accounts on the campaign of working at the fast food chain while in college, an experience that Trump has claimed, without offering evidence, never happened." And here's the LA Times quote, "Trump visits McDonald's after he claimed with no evidence that Harris didn't work there during college." And here's one more. This is NBC News, quote, "Without evidence, Trump has accused Harris of lying about the experience as a way to improve her working class credibility." Well, you're probably getting the picture at this point. The entirety of the corporate press, without exception, wants you to know that there's no evidence that Kamala Harris didn't work at McDonald's. So, in other words, Donald Trump has not proved a negative. He has to prove that she did not work there in the 80s. He has not provided, I guess, a detailed point-by-point explanation of exactly what Kamala Harris was doing at every moment during the 1980s, and therefore he has no right to question her narrative, which is completely backwards, obviously. Kamala is the person who claimed that she worked at McDonald's. She made that claim without providing any evidence. And evidence that'd be easy to provide, by the way. If you worked somewhere, even at any point in your life, it wouldn't be that hard to provide some kind of documentation that you did. I mean, there'd be a record of it. And as I outlined earlier, there is no evidence of that, but there is actually affirmative evidence that she is lying. It's circumstantial evidence, and it's not necessarily conclusive, but it's still evidence. Right now, there's more evidence that she didn't work there than there is evidence that she did work there. But these media outlets don't say, Kamala Harris says without evidence that she worked at McDonald's. Instead, they take her claim as gospel and they get all huffy when Trump calls her out on it. And they do it in an extremely coordinated fashion that makes it clear all of these outlets are reading from the same script. And that script, as we all know, comes from Kamala's campaign. And as you'd expect, the campaign itself is also melting down over Trump's visit to McDonald's. Kamala Harris's rapid response director, James Singer, wrote, quote, "Trump doesn't care about workers, he cares about himself." Here's the clip he embedded in the tweet to support his point. Watch.
Minimum wage should be raised.
Well, I think these people work hard. They're great. And I just saw a process that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see. These are great franchises and produce a lot of jobs, and it's great. And great people working here, too.
Minimum wage is recently increased.
So that's the clip that's supposed to convince us that Trump is a bad guy because he wouldn't immediately say, yes, raise the minimum wage. Which, first of all, the fact that Trump, at 78 years old, was able to learn the ins and outs of cooking fries at McDonald's in about 15 minutes isn't exactly a strong argument for raising the minimum wage. I mean, if anything, it's an argument for lowering it, but I don't see how it's an argument for raising it. Now, of course, there are plenty of other problems with that whole line of argument. When the state of California raised its minimum wage, thousands of fast food workers lost their jobs, and the price of fast food became more expensive across the board, which, that was always inevitable. Of course, that's gonna be the result. And that happened within just the last year. This is the pro-worker policy, according to the rapid response director of the Kamala Harris campaign. But that's not even the worst part of this. The worst part of this is that Kamala Harris's campaign is making snippy, dumb political arguments in response to a campaign event that was just objectively hilarious and effective. I mean, they did the same thing after the Al Smith dinner, and it looks terrible every time they do it. Everyone can see in these clips from McDonald's that the workers loved that Trump was there. He joked around with everyone from the owner of the franchise to the rank and file employees, and they were all enjoying the experience. It's just not possible to spin this kind of footage to create the narrative that they want to create. You end up looking desperate and certainly humorless. Watch.
He owns a lot of McDonald's, that guy. That's great. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, you got it. Can I help?
Oh, I think that's good. You want to do that? Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Trump, what's your favorite thing to order at McDonald's?
I like it all. I love McDonald's. I'm going to give a really big one so that look at that. They're just pouring out of it. How good is that, Margot? Here, Margot, have them. She's been with me a long time. You're an expert at this, huh?
Yes.
How long have you done this? How long have you been here?
I've been working McDonald's 10 plus.
10 plus? Wow. All different jobs?
Yes.
She doing a good job? Does an excellent job. She better, right? Yeah, she's beautiful. Let's go.
So Trump praises the fry cook for his lessons. He asks the woman how long she's worked there. She says 10 years, and he congratulates her. He jokes around with the woman about the apron and his favorite part of McDonald's, and the employees think that it's great. And the response from Kamala Harris's campaign is that Trump was demonstrating that he doesn't care about fast food workers. They're swooping in to remind these McDonald's workers that they're wrong and that Trump actually hates them. Now, it's not surprising that on social media, the reaction to this post from Kamala's rapid response guy, James Singer, was universally negative because, like, these people exist on a different planet. The reason the trip was successful is that, again and again, Trump expressed interest in everyday people, and those people returned the favor. And this isn't something you can coach. It either comes naturally or it doesn't. You know, instead of reading from a rehearsed script, which is all Kamala Harris can do, Trump engaged with these employees and customers like human beings. At one point, when a customer in the drive-thru thanked Trump for talking to ordinary people, Trump rejected the idea that the guy was ordinary. Watch this exchange.
I could do this all day. I wouldn't mind this job. I like this job. I think I might come back and do it again.
Thank you.
Look at that.
Mr.
Look at that. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Nice to see you.
You made it possible for ordinary people like us to meet you.
You're not ordinary.
I mean, thank you so
You
much
are
for
not
everything you're
ordinary.
doing.
I can see.
We pray for you, and you are the type of person we want to be the president.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I took a bullet. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
When you think about it, I guess that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, as these videos were shared all over social media, Kamala Harris's campaign continued to melt down. It was pretty excruciating to watch. The Kamala's Wins X account, which is run by someone who works in the Biden administration, posted, quote, "Breaking, the McDonald's location Trump worked at was cited earlier this year for health code violations. Disgusting." So they're attacking the McDonald's now. Apparently that's the winning strategy. Team Kamala is going to show how much they care about restaurant workers by calling them disgusting. Meanwhile, Ron Filipkowski, who works for something called Midas Touch, discovered that the McDonald's wasn't in fact open to the public at the time of Trump's visit. So he sleuthed that one out. He wrote, quote, "So the place wasn't even open. It was all staged and fake. He didn't work for real at a McDonald's. It was a staged fraud, just like every other event." Well, I have to admit, I was shocked by that revelation. I was, because I figured that Donald Trump showed up to McDonald's unannounced, applied for a job, interviewed with the shift manager, was hired, took like a human resources class, studied the employee handbook, filled out all the necessary paperwork, went through training, worked an entire shift, and would be back to work the morning rush the next day. That's what I thought. But it turns out that Trump isn't actually an employee of McDonald's. This is a major scoop by Ron Filipkowski. For their part, the New York Post published an article entitled, "Exclusive. I'm an ex-McDonald's chef. Trump has no idea how difficult it is to be a French fry cook." The article contains quotes like this one, quote, "Being a McDonald's employee is more difficult than a lot of people imagine. Maintaining a cool temperament is key. As a fry cook, anything can go wrong, which is tough because almost every McDonald's order includes fries." And it goes on and on with all the hardships of working at McDonald's. Now, I know this comes as a shock to our friends on the left, but, it is possible to show that you respect and value somebody without being insanely patronizing. I have nothing against McDonald's employees, but no, it is not difficult to put a batch of frozen French fries into a vat of grease. It's not difficult to work fast food. As a general rule, if a 16-year-old can do a job and do it well, that means by definition, it's not difficult. Unless that 16-year-old is a world champion gymnast or something, but when it comes to normal jobs that pay you an hourly wage, the ones that predominantly hire high school kids are not difficult. It's okay to acknowledge that. You don't have to infantilize these people. But all of this nonsense and this impotent rage from the left tells us two things. First of all, as I mentioned, they know that Kamala Harris is a fraud and they resent anyone who exposes that. But also, this stunt demonstrates once again that Donald Trump is the master at hijacking the news cycle. He's also extremely good at retail politics, in part because he's been in public life for so long in so many different contexts. And here he's doing both of those things at once. This is a unique talent, especially in this presidential race. The reason that Kamala Harris couldn't pull off this McDonald's stunt is the same reason that she had to skip the Al Smith dinner. She has none of Trump's redeeming qualities. Trump, by contrast, knows how to be a real person. He knows how to have fun. If Kamala tried the same stunt, it would come off painfully fake and awkward. And the key here is that Trump, when he's doing something like this, he's not pretending to be a working class guy with lots of experience doing jobs like this. Like, he knows that he's a fish out of water, and that's the fun of it. He's having fun with that fact. Like, it is funny to see Donald Trump working the fries at McDonald's. A funny thing to see. And he is aware of the fact that it's funny. It's why he's doing it. Voters pick up on the authenticity and they respect it. That's why thousands of people were gathered outside the McDonald's to greet him. It's why every interaction Trump had inside the McDonald's was friendly and entertaining and upbeat. It's why the scene looked like this the whole time.
Right here. Lower it slowly into the wood, don't want to burn. Then we're just going to hit our fry time right here.
Right there. Well, that's a good looking group. Hello, everybody. This is not a normal situation, is it? What a good looking family. Oh, thank you. How did you produce those good looking kids? Oh, they look like they look like you. How are you? Nice to see you. All right. Appreciate all the Thank you. Grateful to have you in Bucks County. And there'll be no charge. Trump is paying for it. Is that okay? Trump 2024. Oh, you're going to some extra stuff. Oh, okay, great. This is all on Trump. Oh, hold on. I'm allowed to do that, right? Yeah. Let's check and make sure it's everything you said it would be. It better be. It's going to be the best yet. I made it myself. You're the best. Make America great. That's compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank you. Mr. President, please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
We'll keep it good.
Please.
We're going to make it better than ever, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Mr. President.
So today, the Kamala Harris campaign is still asking how this happened. They're asking how a photo op like this could immediately garner tens of millions of views on every social media platform. They're asking why more than 7,000 people gathered outside the McDonald's to see this. They're asking why everybody, saying that the images from this, everyone's saying the images from this McDonald's look like a Norman Rockwell painting and how they'll end up in the history books. Well, the reason the Kamala campaign can't answer those questions is the same reason they'll likely lose the election. This race is between perhaps the most authentic presidential candidate in modern American history and the most inauthentic. And if the desperate, furious reaction from Kamala Harris's campaign and the corporate press tells us anything, it's that they're now painfully aware which candidate is which. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. What is a wireless company? No, it shouldn't be a big data company. No, it shouldn't be a political action campaign. And no, a wireless company shouldn't make you believe you only have 2 options for data, unlimited or unlimited, and both are stupidly expensive. A wireless company, pure and simple, should connect you to the people and things you love. A wireless company should give you lightning-fast 5G coverage at a lower cost than you're paying today. And a wireless company should have an excellent customer service team based right here in America who can help make switching easy. Essentially, all wireless companies should be like Pure Talk, but unfortunately they're not. So you should switch right now. And if you do at puretalk.com/Walsh, you'll also get 1 free year of Daily Wire Plus, where you can stream my new film, Am I Racist, for free starting October 28th, where I'll be debunking yet another leftist myth. But remember, This deal is exclusive. The only way to get it is by going to puretalk.com/Walsh. Support Pure Talk, a wireless company who wants to be a wireless company and nothing more. And here's the kicker. They also support the same values you do. Remember, it takes courage to stand for your values and takes even more to stand against those who try to silence you. puretalk.com/Walsh. That's puretalk.com/Walsh. So Obama's out campaigning for Kamala Harris, and there was a moment on the trail with Obama over the weekend that was pretty amazing, actually. Let's listen to this.
My last year in office, we put together a playbook for how to deal with the eventuality of a pandemic. Because scientists had been saying with globalization and travel, etc., rising populations, that at some point there was going to be a pandemic. And so I said to my team, I said, we got to have a plan, just like you do for hurricanes or tornadoes or natural disasters. So we put together this whole playbook. And we practiced the playbook. We get all the agencies. This is how we're going to respond. This is how to make sure that the public health systems in all the states are working. Here's how we're going to think about the schools. And when Donald Trump came in, we gave over this playbook to them. And but the point is, he ignored it. And 3 years later, a pandemic hits. Now, I want to really be fair on this, but I want everybody to pay attention. No matter who was president at the time, this was going to be a problem. This was a generational pandemic. People were going to get sick. People were going to die. We didn't have a vaccine right away. Businesses were going to have to shut down for a while. Travel was going to be restricted. But if you look at a country like Canada, their per capita death rate was 40% lower than it was here in the United States. So just do the math. That's more than 400,000 people. People's grandmothers, people's fathers, people's moms, who would have been alive if Donald Trump had just paid attention and tried to follow the plan that we gave him. It might have been somebody in your family that could have been impacted. So if somebody tells you that this doesn't make a difference, having somebody competent, somebody who cares about you, who listens to ordinary people, who listens to people who are experts in these areas, if you hear somebody say it doesn't matter, it does matter. And at some point, it will make a difference to them.
Okay, so let's think about this. Obama tells us, I think for the first time, about this magical playbook that he had, which would have saved lives if only Trump had followed it. In fact, he says that his playbook would have saved 400,000 lives. So Trump is directly responsible for 400,000 deaths, says Obama. That's what he says. But, well, how does that work exactly? Because the CDC report, according to the CDC, according to their own numbers, let's just take their numbers, they claim that 350,000 people died of COVID in the U.S. in 2020. That's what they claim. And that was Trump's term. That's, Trump was obviously out of office in January of 2021. So just taking the CDC's numbers at face value, Obama is claiming that if Trump had followed the magical playbook, not a single person would have died of COVID. That's apparently what he's claiming. Yet we would have been the only country in the world to not suffer a single COVID death, says Obama. Like, that's the lie this guy is telling. And the brain-dead SEALs in his audience, of course, are buying it and clapping right along. It's just it's crazy. It's a crazy claim. Now, you might try to bail Obama out here and say that, well, oh no, Obama only said that it would have been 40%. So 40% of the lives would have been saved. 40% of the people that died would not have died if only Trump had followed the magical playbook. Because he says that Canada had 40% fewer deaths or whatever he's claiming the number is. Now, there are major problems with that math. For one thing, Canada is a much less densely populated country, much less densely populated. Like, it's one of the least densely populated countries on Earth. Canada has a population density of 11 people per square mile, whereas for the USA, that number is like 90 per square mile. So our density is 9 or 10 times what theirs is. And so therefore comparing the spread of a virus between the two countries is totally asinine, just dishonest and crazy. But that's not even the main point here, because if he's saying that his playbook, his magical playbook, would have saved 400,000 lives, but he's also not claiming that it would have prevented all of the deaths during Trump's term, that means he must be pulling that figure from the total alleged total of U.S. deaths for COVID. Which means that he's blaming Trump for deaths that happened under the Biden administration. He's blaming Trump for deaths that happened years into the Biden administration. So you can kind of take your pick here. Which psychotic lie is this guy telling? Is he saying that Trump is responsible for every COVID death that happened in 2020? Or is he saying that Trump is responsible for 40% of all the COVID deaths that happened even after his term had ended? I mean, either way, it's just a crazy, despicable lie from a guy that tells crazy, despicable lies all the time and always has. And of course, like, never mind the fact that the U.S. did follow whatever the playbook is, whatever his alleged playbook. That's what happened. Because we know the playbook is like shut everything down and interrupt everybody's lives, and that's exactly what happened. Okay, that was the playbook that every major government in the world followed, almost. And we are still today dealing with the ramifications of that, the economic, social, and cultural ramifications, and we will be for decades to come. All right, Lizzo she's lost some weight. First of all, she's looking less. She's looking less. She looks less. She looks like less of what she looked before, and I'll give her that. So congratulations on that. She's eating healthy, and anyway, she's out campaigning for Kamala now also, and here she is on her way to the Kamala rally, showing off her means of transportation. Watch.
This is how a bag saves democracy. You hoes couldn't even spell democracy.
Now, I mean, first of all, that's not even that nice of a private jet. Like, it looks like it seats probably 8 or 9 people. 7 if one of them is Lizzo. And, it's a private jet. It's nicer than what I fly most of the time. I'm flying commercial. But I'm just saying, like, if you're going to flaunt your private jet, it should be top of the line, I would think. And that's all I'm saying. But more to the point, it is, of course, gratuitous for a leftist on her way to campaign for Kamala Harris to be bragging about her private jet. And it just goes to show, what we already know, which is that these people don't believe any of the crap that they spew about climate change. They don't believe it at all. Nobody believes it. Like, Nobody actually believes that human beings are ushering in some kind of climate apocalypse. Nobody believes that because nobody is acting like they believe it. Everybody is just living their lives like normal. And if your normal life includes flying, for most of us, our normal lives do not include private jets, but if it does, then, you're still flying on the private jet. And I know this is the general take you have from conservatives, that nobody really believes this stuff. These people don't believe it. That's why they're flying in the private jets. And I think that's probably the case, although sometimes I wonder, maybe we're giving them too much credit. We're kind of giving like the Lizzos of the world the benefit of the doubt by saying, and the Leonardo DiCaprios and the Al Gores, we're sort of giving them the benefit of the doubt by saying that, oh, well, you don't really believe this climate change stuff. That's why you're flying on the private jet. Because the alternative is that they do believe it, and yet they're still carrying on this way. So they think that by flying a private jet, they are helping to bring about the death of mankind. And yet they're doing it anyway. Which would make these people, morally, that makes these people mass murderers. Now, I don't think they actually are mass murderers because they aren't going to bring about the death of all mankind by flying on a private jet. But if they think that it will have that effect, and yet they're doing it anyway, then they are morally indistinguishable from actual mass murderers. So that's the other alternative here, is that either they're hypocrites or they are mass murderers. It's one of the two. Pick your poison, I guess. And then when Lizzo got to the rally, she made this rather amazing comment. Listen.
I'm so proud to be from this city. They say if Kamala wins, then the whole country will be like Detroit. Okay? Proud like Detroit. Resilient like Detroit.
Make America Detroit. MAD, M-A-D, I guess is the slogan now. Just imagine how out of touch you have to be to roll this out, saying that you want to make America more like Detroit. I mean, it's like if your surgeon said that right before you went under for surgery, if he told you that his greatest inspiration in the medical field was Dr. Jack Kevorkian or something. Which actually isn't that outlandish these days, so maybe that's not the best analogy, or maybe that's why it is a good analogy, I don't know. But in any case, Detroit is a decrepit, crumbling, depressed, and quite depressing town whose best days are way behind it. And this is what the Democrats want to turn the whole country into. By their own admission. And, the other thing to keep in mind is that when you watch that clip and it comes off like a gaffe, like Lizzo's just up there riffing, and this is what you get when you have someone like Lizzo riffing at your rally. But it's pretty clear from when you watch and listen that this was not a riff. This was a speech that she was giving. So they planned this. This was her campaign. This was not it's not like the campaign was standing off on Kamala's handlers were standing there off stage and they heard Lizzo say, yeah, let's make America Detroit. And they're just putting their heads in there like, oh my gosh, what is she saying? No, that wasn't happening. No, they're standing by nodding their heads and say, yep, this is great stuff. This is what the voters want. This is what the average everyday voter, when they think about what they want for this country and they think about their dreams for this country and the kind of country they want their kids to grow up in. Yeah, the average everyday voter, they're saying, yeah, Detroit, that's what we want. We want that. That's an everyday American. When you drive through Detroit, all you can think to yourself is, man, I wish everywhere was like this. That's what Kamala's campaign thinks, apparently. So, out of touch doesn't even begin to describe it. All right, let's move on to this. Elon Musk was also campaigning over the weekend, campaigning for Trump, though, of course. And we'll have more about, there's another clip of his that we'll play later on in the show, but I did want to play this clip first because it's, for obvious reasons, I quite appreciated it. Here it is.
I also think that like the value of a college education is somewhat overweighted, and I think it's too many people actually spend 4 years, accumulate a ton of debt, and then often don't have useful skills that they can apply afterwards. And I think I have a lot of respect for people who work with their hands, and we need electricians and plumbers and carpenters, and that's a lot more important than having incremental political science majors, I think. So I think we should not have this idea that to be successful you need to have a 4-year college. That is simply not true.
Now, needless to say, I couldn't agree more. Not going to college, as you've heard me say, is one of the best decisions that I ever made. I thank God every day that I didn't go to college. Maybe not every day, but periodically, I thank God I didn't go to college. And the great thing about it, and this I tell younger people this all the time, if you don't go, the great thing is that you don't go to, let's say if you're me and you don't go to college, well, you can always go to college later if you decide that you want to. So I don't regret not going to college, and I never really could regret it, because if I ever decided that, if I ever said to myself, oh man, I wish I had a college degree, I can just go get one. You can always go. You can take especially these days, you just take online classes and you can get your college degree, and it's no big deal. On the other hand, if you go to college and then you go into years worth of debt, and then you realize that you didn't need to go, or you wish you hadn't, you can't undo that. I know. I mean, if the government steals money from your fellow citizens and gives you loan forgiveness, quote unquote, then you could try to wipe out your mistake that way. But if you don't want to rely on state-sponsored theft to cover up your mistakes, then there is no way to undo it, and you're stuck with the debt regardless. So now that doesn't mean that nobody should go to college. It just means that most people shouldn't go. And probably most importantly, almost nobody should be going straight out of high school. Like, in order to justify going to college straight out of high school, you would need to know exactly what you want to do for a career. And you would need to know that you need a degree to do that thing, whatever it is. And there's only a tiny minority of high school graduates who fall into that category at the ages of 17 or 18. How many high school graduates at 17 or 18 know exactly what they want to do, and they know that they need a degree to do it? That's a small minority of the people who actually end up going to college at that age. And even most of them still shouldn't be going right out of high school. Most of them could still benefit from, at least a couple of years working and building up a little bit of savings. So, I say that, yes, some people should still go to college, but I can't really think of any reason why anyone should ever go to college at the age of 18. I mean, honest to God, I no matter what you want to do with your life, there's no reason why at 18 years old. So, well, I'm not going to say anyone ever. If you have an athletic scholarship or something like that, then obviously that's a reason. If you have all the financial means to pay for it, if you have a full ride scholarship, or if you come from a rich family and they can pay for it, and you know what you want to do with your life, and you need a degree, you want to be a doctor or something, well, then okay, then yeah. There's no reason not to go at the age of 18 right out of high school, and there might be compelling reasons to go right out of high school. But outside of that, outside of you have a full ride scholarship, or you're rich and you know what you want to do, putting those kinds of scenarios aside, it's just kind of crazy for most people, the vast majority of people going to college right out of high school. It's just we're used to it. It's the system. It's been the system for a long time, but it is a crazy system, and there's really no reason for it. Most people, you're not in a race. Like, who are you racing? Once you're out of grade school, it's like you're not on this preordained track where you have to keep up. It's like now it's once you graduate high school, it's like this is just life now. And you could go any number of ways. There's infinite number of ways, directions you could take. Not all of them will be good, but now it's just life, and you're not racing anybody. And so there's just no reason to dive into this commitment, right out of high school. It's not going to hurt you to take a couple of years, work a job, get some life experience, a little bit of savings. You're not going to save up enough to pay for college probably, unless you do wait until you're in your 30s or something. But still, take a couple of years at least. How is that going to hurt you? Here's an interesting case that I wanted to mention only because I think it illustrates a point that I've made a few times recently on the show. We've had several cases, well, two cases at least in the last month where murderous scumbags have been found too incompetent to stand trial. And my point is that this incompetent to stand trial thing is almost always a sham, like just a way of allowing the worst and most evil people and the most dangerous among us to escape consequences. As I've argued, if you define incompetent broadly enough, then it would sort of by definition describe almost anyone who commits a violent crime, especially anyone who commits murder, almost anyone, because competent people don't go around committing murder in most cases. Like if you see murder as a way to solve your problems, then you're already, among other things, a moron, like mentally incompetent. And if incompetent could describe almost any murderer, then that either means that we should use it to let them all off the hook, or it shouldn't let really any of them off the hook. There's only one sane option between those two. So here's a case that kind of illustrates that point for us. That I just happen to see this. So here it is, reading from the New York Post. A North Dakota woman was sentenced to 25 years in prison for poisoning her boyfriend after mistakenly believing that he had inherited $30 million and planned to break up with her, officials said. Ina Thea Kanoyer, 48, was convicted for the murder of Stephen Riley, 51, who died last year from ethylene glycol poisoning, the same toxin found in antifreeze. Stephanie Gonzalez, Riley's sister, told Kanoyer at the court hearing in Minot that she was lucky to get such a lenient sentence. State District Judge Richard Hager sentenced Kanoyer to 25 years last Wednesday after she pleaded guilty to try to get killing her boyfriend and try to get inheritance. But in a tragic twist, there was likely no inheritance in the first place. Officials said Kanoyer poisoned Riley just hours after she found out from an email that he had received that he was supposedly going to inherit $30 million. But Ryan Riley, the victim's 21-year-old son, told the Post that the couple had unwittingly fallen victim to an online scam and there was never any money. She told police that she planned to split Riley's alleged $30 million inheritance with his son, claiming she was entitled to a portion of it as common law wife. North Dakota, however, does not recognize such relationships. Okay, so this woman, Kanoyer, was found, she was not found incompetent. Like, she was apparently competent to stand trial, and she was convicted and sentenced. And the sentence should have been longer. It should have been life in prison, but she is going to prison for 25 years, and at her age, that's almost life. But she's not incompetent. She was competent to stand trial. But let's review the facts of this case. To begin with, she killed her boyfriend by poisoning him with antifreeze. And there is like a 100% chance of being caught if that's how you kill someone. Of all the ways to murder somebody, and not that I'm encouraging anyone to murder people in more effective ways, but of all the ways, that has to have the lowest batting average in terms of getting away with it. I mean, not only that, but she killed the guy because she thought that she was inheriting $30 million and she wanted the money, but it turns out that they were getting scammed. There was no money. This is basically, it sounds like this was like one of those Nigerian prince email scams. And on top of that, she wouldn't have inherited the money anyway because she wasn't his wife. And her state doesn't recognize common law marriages. So she killed her boyfriend to inherit money that he didn't have and that she wouldn't inherit anyway. And she killed him using a method that was guaranteed to get her caught within like 18 seconds of the police looking into this crime. So what do you think this woman's IQ is? 75, maybe, at best? I would guess it's probably below 70. Like, she which would make her, from a medical perspective, would make her literally medically retarded. And yeah, she's a bad person too. I'm not saying that her biggest problem is that she killed her boyfriend in the dumbest way possible and for the dumbest reason. Her biggest problem is killing him at all. Like, she's an evil person, and not everyone who's as stupid as she is evil. So, that's the issue here. But I'm just trying to make a point, which is, would anyone describe this person as competent? Like, competent by what standard? She's obviously a totally dysfunctional and mentally deficient person. So, should we refrain from sending her to prison? Well, no, obviously not. Like, prison is for totally dysfunctional and deficient people who then become violent. That's why we have them. Those are the people who end up there. We put them there so that they can no longer inflict harm on society. And because we also recognize that somebody like this, like, what, you can't even get through to somebody like this. You can't change them. If you're that incredibly stupid and incompetent and evil at the age of 50 whatever, this is not ever going to be the kind of person who you could just trust to live a well-adjusted life in society. It's not the kind of person you could ever have in your community. So, but yet she's going to prison. But the guy who ran over the police chief, isn't. He at least not right now. He was ruled to be, at least for now, mentally incompetent. Bianca Ellis, who killed a toddler, stabbed a toddler to death outside of a grocery store. She was the other one who this month was ruled incompetent to stand trial. And yet this other mentally deficient person is competent. I mean, there's like, there's no good or acceptable answer to that. Like, why they can't stand trial right now, she can. Well, because it's totally arbitrary. It's just completely arbitrary. It's this concept that we have put in place that could be totally arbitrarily used by a judge, by the court system, if they want to. And that is why we should just be throwing all dangerous and dysfunctional people in prison. The fact that they're incompetent should be totally irrelevant, because of course they all are. By most standards of competency, none of them would get over that bar. And that's why the prison is there. Let's talk about something that affects all of us, taxes. The October 15th deadline has passed, and if you're not prepared, you could be in for a world of hurt. Do you owe back taxes? Are your returns still unfiled? Did you miss the deadline to file for an extension? Now that we're past October 15th, the IRS is probably gearing up for some aggressive enforcement, and trust me, you don't want to be on their radar. We're talking wage garnishments, frozen bank accounts, or even property seizures. It's not pretty, folks, but before you start panicking, there's still hope. Tax Network USA has helped taxpayers save over $1 billion in tax debt and filed over 10,000 tax returns. These guys specialize in reducing tax burdens for hardworking Americans like you. Look, I get it. Dealing with the IRS is about as fun as a root canal, but ignoring the problem won't make it go away. So here's what you need to do. Don't wait any longer. For a complimentary consultation, call today at 1-800-958-1000 or visit their website at tnusa.com/Walsh. Their experts will walk you through a few simple questions to see how much you can save. That's 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Walsh today. Don't let the IRS take advantage of you. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. Get ready because in just 1 week, the decade's #1 grossing documentary is coming exclusively to Daily Wire Plus. That's right, my new movie, Am I Racist, is arriving on Monday, October 28th. But you'll need a Daily Wire Plus membership to watch it. We've made it easier than ever by putting our memberships on sale. Head over to dailywire.com/subscribe and use code DEI for 35% off your new Daily Wire Plus membership. Am I Racist is our epic troll of the left, and it shocked the box office with its success. But taking on the establishment isn't cheap. Making a movie and getting it into theaters across the country is a monumental and costly endeavor. We're doing the work, but we can't do it without your support. So we need you to join us now as we fight the left and build a future so we can keep standing up for you. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe today, become a member, and get ready for Am I Racist streaming exclusively on Daily Wire Plus in just 1 week. Now let's get to our daily cancellation. Last week, we discussed Elon Musk's efforts to advance his space program and human civilization itself in the face of arbitrary and increasingly cumbersome and pointless interference by various government bureaucracies on the local, state, and federal level. And some of the sabotage is, of course, motivated by the regime's hatred for Elon Musk personally. But much of it, a sizable chunk anyway, is the natural byproduct of a bloated bureaucratic state that exists to make everything more difficult and more expensive, and more complicated than it has any reason to be. At the Trump rally over the weekend, he told a story related to this subject. He's certainly not the only person to have experienced the unique horrors of government overregulation and inefficiency, but he's probably experienced more of it than most people ever will. And to that end, he related this anecdote. Listen.
SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark. And I'm like, it's a big ocean, you know. There's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And said, well, you have to, you know, this is, I think, from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, you know, NIMF it's called. You know, they were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you're going to hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, fine, we'll do the analysis. And then, well, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. We're like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. And I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? And they're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on the shark data. And so eventually, I think we got the data, and we could run the analysis to say, like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine. But they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data. And then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? I'm like, when you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale? Because I look at a picture, I don't see any. It's like, you can't. Where's a whale? And honestly, if the ship did hit a whale, it's like, honestly, that whale had it coming, because it's like the odds are so low. You know, it's like Final Destination, the whale edition. It's like fate had it in for that whale, you know. And so we had to do the whale analysis. And it's like, okay, yeah, the whales will be fine too, you know.
So the government was worried that SpaceX might hit a whale or a shark when it lands its rockets in the ocean. Just to put that into perspective, the Pacific Ocean is 60 million square miles, which works out to about 40 billion acres, which works out to about 50 billion football fields. So now we have to ask ourselves, at any given moment, how much of that space is occupied at or near the surface by sharks and whales? Let's allow for a psychotically high estimate. Let's just say that there are right now, at this moment, 1 billion football fields worth of sharks and whales swimming near the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Imagine an NFL football field crammed with sharks and whales, and now imagine 1 billion more of those. Well, even in this fantasy land scenario, that still leaves 49 billion football fields for Elon to land his rockets. the chance of hitting one of those poor creatures would still be microscopically small, and yet they still had to waste time and money dealing with this fantastically implausible hypothetical scenario. Why is that? Well, because the government hates Elon Musk, yes, for political reasons. But even more than that, the government is comprised of utterly useless bureaucrats who have no skills and nothing to contribute and no reason to exist. All of these people are paid for no reason to do nothing. And so most of the waste and inefficiency in government happens simply because these people have to justify their own existence. And this is, every organization deals with this kind of thing to some extent. The bigger the organization is, the more of it you get. That's why, as a general rule, and this is just science, at least 30% of the people involved in any meeting that you ever go to at your job, at least 30% of those people could be fired or at least given something more productive to do. Every meeting is 90% longer than it needs to be and involves at least 30% more people than need to be involved. Again, that's just basic science. And when it comes to the government, that 30% figure is more like 95%, which is probably still a conservative estimate. And a few days ago, as if to prove the point, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency put out a tweet, ostensibly to brag about their involvement in hurricane cleanup efforts. But instead, they accidentally provided us with maybe the most powerful illustration of government inefficiency that we've seen in a very long time. The tweet says, along with our partners at FEMA, we will continue with disaster recovery as a result of Hurricane Milton. The safety of the American people is our top priority. Now, accompanying that caption is this video. Watch. Okay, so for those listening to the audio podcast, I will describe what we just witnessed. What we saw was, I guess, supposed to be the inspiring spectacle of 13 CBP agents standing in a line, passing a 10-pound log down the line to then throw it on a pile of larger logs, a larger pile of logs about 20 feet away. So just to review the numbers again, that's 13 government workers transporting one 10-pound log 20 feet. Actually, it's 14 workers if you count the guy that's just standing there and watching. I assume that he's the spotter tasked with observing and tending to any injuries that might be incurred during the procedure. Because you never know when somebody might get a splinter or crack a nail or something. It is, as I said, the ultimate illustration of government inefficiency. It's pretty extraordinary. Now, but then again, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback this thing. Can I think of a more efficient way to move a small log from one place to another place 20 feet away? Well, yes, I can. In fact, you could stick with the assembly line technique and just cut half the people, and it would already be twice as efficient. If every CBP agent was simply required to extend their arms all the way while passing the log, it would mean that at least 6 or 7 of them wouldn't need to be there. So they could go and form a different log train somewhere else, and now you've increased efficiency while also increasing the amount of work being done. But here I'm still operating within the sort of log train paradigm. It is possible to come up with log transportation methods that are entirely different. For instance, what if each of the 13 agents were to each grab their own 10-pound log and walk it the full 20 feet themselves? Now you'll have transported 13 times the number of logs in the same amount of time or even less time. Now, it's true that this requires a greater expenditure of effort and energy, but the workload would still be light enough that you should still be able to get the job done much quicker. I mean, are they in good enough shape to walk back and forth carrying small logs for even half an hour? If so, imagine how many logs 13 people could transport in half an hour. What if they could do an hour of work? Just imagine that. Now, of course, I'm brainstorming right now under the assumption that the federal government, with its multi-trillion-dollar budget, can't spring for a few wheelbarrows. Like, if it were possible to utilize that sort of technology, then even just one person could transport 10 logs in the time that it takes the log train to move one. And if you could use some kind of motorized piece of equipment, say like a tractor or something, you could increase the volume exponentially beyond that. But I know it's probably a bit unreasonable to expect that kind of splurging from a miserly, stingy government that only spent $6 trillion last year. So forget the dreams of heavy machinery. Still, you get pretty nice quality wheelbarrow from Lowe's for like $60. Is that too much to ask? Apparently so. But this is what you get from the government. Everything will be done as inefficiently and as cumbersome a fashion as humanly possible. And we'll be made to pay for all of it. And that is why the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency is today canceled. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
The question everyone in America is asking,
am I racist?
Make those moves.
Get a Daily Wire Plus membership to see Am I Racist?
This is all I have. Did you want to?
I can help you guys out.
Yeah.
Go to amирacist.com and sign up now.
I've been told because I'm a white male, kind of at the top of the pile, how do I get down from the top?
I don't think you necessarily can.
How do we get past all the talk about racism?
We have to love each other.
Well, it can't be that simple. How do we get to a point of racial harmony? It's good to talk to you. We're still on a journey, all of us together.
I think you got some journeying to do.
Just talk to me about the statistics. We have an epidemic.
20 million crimes a year, 6,000, 7,000 hate crimes. No, there's no epidemic.
Why are we talking about statistics? This is not a matter of statistics.
Well, you asked me about the statistics.
Am I Racist? Coming to Daily Wire Plus on October 28th. Rated PG-13.